World-class venue that DFC proudly puts on twice a year, 2 amateur shows as well. The beautiful Willie McGarry Room, the world-famous Adelaide Oval. 65.8 kilogram.
Here we go.
Brendan White on the right of your screen, Steve Brown in the left.
You know, Steve is a very, very accomplished martial artist when it comes to his judo, and you know, many people will make a big deal about his good gauging of distance and a nice little kick there. But Steve is incredibly hard on himself in regard to his MMA growth, and he is not happy with how he's developed and wants to continue to just keep growing. And like you mentioned, he just wants to get in there because he doesn't feel like he can make that growth by just training. He needs to have competition to push him forward. Nice kick again. He's still ducking his level, and he's got to be careful when he does that, or he's going to cop a head kick as he comes down.
White's doing a great job getting away from the cage. Steve Brown is notorious for holding people on the cage and grinding them down.
Yeah, White's very aware of that and just using circling. He's now controlling the center, so he's got backwards movement, he's got forwards. He's using those feints in order to try and bait Steve in, and Steve's not super confident yet on that. You can see he's committing to it, but he's a little bit worried about what comes after, like that. There it is.
It's a great game plan, just getting Steve Brown away from that cage.
Steve's growth in his striking is showing, though. He's using his feints to try and set things up.
They're still filling each other out.
Steve loading up on that right hand a little bit too much, and I think that Brendan can see it coming, just like that. He's not ever finding that distance, and he's got to be careful because if he throws it and Brendan times it, he'll throw that left hook over the top of it. Nice kick.
Steve backing
Kick
up.
for kick.
I'm just waiting for Steve to explode with that double leg.
Well, that's what that uppercut then from Brandon was about. You know, the uppercut just tells Steve you can't go there. I might throw it and you might walk into it. Steve just constantly backpedaling here, surprised me. Eats that right hand over the top. That's why you've got to be careful with those flash jabs. It's okay to feint, but you've got to be careful that you don't make too big a pattern of it, or your opponent can read it and then throw over the top of it. Steve throwing over the top. That was a bit better. That right hand was
Great high kick by White.
head kick over the top. Steve shooting in again, but he telegraphed it. He leant off to his right and backwards before he shot. Brendan is showing
Final moments in this round.
real nice composure
10 seconds.
and an excellent skill set here. This is,
Oh, White had a shot of his own.
yep.
Time.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that he sort of wound up with his posture
Brendan
broken.
White. Steve Brown.
See, White just continually shooting.
DFC10.
Great circling off by White.
Olympian Judoka, Adelaide Oval. Thank you so much for coming out and supporting tonight, folks. We really appreciate it. Thank you to all our sponsors: Supplement Warfare, American Motors, X-Speed, Impressive X, Sign and Design, Painters of Distinction, Stewart Steel Supplies, Coffee World, and of course this event sponsored by Topline. Coming up, round number 2.
Surprising of White to shoot in the end. His game plan so far has been flawless. Get away from Steve Brown's clinch, get away from the cage, circle off.
Seconds down.
Once Steve gets a hold of you, he's a bulldog. He will grapple, he will not let go, and he'll just suck the life out of you.
Yeah, I think the key words that I use is distance management. Brendan is doing a sensational job of keeping Steve right at the end of his punches and not letting Steve come into that zone in front of him. Steve looks more willing to brawl and exchange this time. I think he's willing to just come in and throw. He's keeping his right hand glued to his face, which is good. Switches stance, switching back and forwards. The switches is doing a good job of getting into the distance this time, and he's showing a lot more urgency. Michael having to use a lot more movement. Sorry, Mike. Brendan having to show a lot more movement this time.
You're Michael.
I've heard.
White's not me. Oof. Besides White's not using his range a lot more. He's just very content of just staying.
The real key here is that Brendan knows that he's got him in the right position.
Again.
And so he's just burying those kicks, burying those punches, and just making sure he's accurate. And he's not wasting movement. See how he's still, just at the end of those punches, just at the end of those punches.
Until the technician's been definitely rubbing off on Steve Brown. Oh, great
nice right hand.
That one rocked him. Steve is now swarming. There we go. That's Steve Brown's game plan.
Yeah, this is where Steve shines. His top control is really difficult to move. And we've seen this time and again. When he gets on top and just smothers you, it's so difficult to be able to shift your hips underneath him or to be able to create any kind of offensive threat. That posture and that balance, he's passing. Reaches straight over the top, good control. Knee through, it looks like he's trying to staple the leg through the middle.
And just work the body.
Body shots. He's reaching, he's grabbing behind the head in order to make sure that he doesn't get shifted backwards and just crowding him. And this is what Steve does. He uses his balance in order to just crowd. Constantly busy. He's got an excellent work ethic. Big swings.
Just picking his shots. Very methodical with the way he's actually throwing these punches. He's not acting with a sense of urgency. He's just doing it very methodically, very cerebral.
White's not really taking too much damage though. Like, not anything particularly noteworthy. I think he just needs to sell out and start moving. He's not going to hit that triangle. Using the cage.
Now he's...
And Steve just crushing him underneath.
And time.
That's smothering force. That's a tale of 2 rounds though.
This bout will go the distance. Third and final round coming up. White and Brown. DFC10, thank you so much for coming and supporting tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you, Julia. Third and final round.
Steve's unloading in this replay here. Constantly just changing positions.
Seconds down.
Yeah, the thing about those shots is that they're kind of... They're not necessarily springy or quick. They're very pushy. So they'll shove with a lot of power, but they're not snapping. Great shot over the top there by White. Nice kick.
Like to see White land that head kick again.
Yeah, I mean, he can probably afford to throw another kick or two to the legs and then come up high. But I think that's what you've got to watch out for, is if he starts exchanging kicks and Steve Brown gets in on you. And once he gets in on you, this happens.
Fighting that single.
And this is what Steve wants.
Steve's a judo black belt.
Big takedown. Slams into the mat. And again, just that smothering pressure.
Could be almost fighting for an armbar here.
Well, White really just needs to sit up. Forget about, in my opinion, he needs to just forget about the armbar and just get up. He had an opportunity to get up and he tried to finish the fight. I mean, is that really where you want to be? Excellent. Well, certainly much, much, much better control of Steve this time. Steve isn't getting to just tee off on him now.
Steve's going to just keep grinding.
Steve at risk of a triangle here because he's got one arm in and one arm out. If Brendan can get that right leg free.
Steve knows it as well. Steve doing a great job of
Steve's
defending
dressing
that.
it, and his left arm's coming out, and it's going to come past that knee. Oh, both guys fighting for it, though. This is good.
His arm's trapped.
Steve sitting up, though. Steve pushing that knee. I don't think he's going to be able to get it. This is where Brendan needs to get up.
1 minute left.
Steve responding immediately to the mat there.
Great fight IQ by Steve Brown as well.
He definitely listens for his coaches very effectively. Right, so White now has the cage to his back. He can use it to stand up.
Should use it to stand up. Hard body shot by Steve Brown there. Seisha's posture up.
Ooh, little up kick there.
Swarms
Steve
again.
coming in with the punch. I mean, at this point, White needs to start working out what exactly he's going to do to impress the judges for this round, because we said it was a tale of 2 rounds before. Oh, wow. Steve Percival almost looking in. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Steve would have just been aware of the clock. That was all that was.
1 round.
Be interesting to see what Steve Brown does after this, whether or not he goes pro. I'd personally like to see him. I'd love to see him with a bit more weapons in his arsenal, or to be able to use a few more weapons in his arsenal.
Oh, he's just steadily developing. I mean, it's very difficult when you are so good with one discipline to be able to branch yourself out and leave your comfort zone and develop different tools. I'd like to still see... I think the key factor is just more fights.
Round of applause, please, from Dave from Top Line. Come on. Yep. We await the judge's decision, White and Brown, after 3 rounds of action.
Can't wait to see both of these guys in the cage again.
Absolutely. Brandon White had just such a great game plan in the first round. Just kept circling off, making sure that Steve wasn't going to push him anywhere near that cage. Very impressed with that. Managed to keep him at distance, but then once Steve gives that inch, he'll just take the mile.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those grapplers where once he gets a hold of you, you're never getting out. It's like going into quicksand. Just waiting on the decision here. All right, James White with that decision.
Look, folks, I don't know what to say. Come on, give these guys a round of applause. That was a great fight, sir. And after 3 rounds, the unanimous decision, our winner comes, well, blue corner.